Good morning, good morning, good morning. This is your boy, Brother Wes, aka Uncle Wes. I want to say happy Monday to everybody. This is going to be the greatest week of your life, and I'm here to encourage somebody to stay in the race and get focused on your vision. And I want to say this opening statement that every no gets you closer to your yes. Do not let no stop you when you hear somebody tell you no. That should encourage you that yes is around the corner. I want to first of all give honor to my pastor, the Honorable Thomas Wesley Weeks, and also to my mentor, Bishop Larry Scott. I want to thank them for being such influential people in my life, and the reason that I'm still here today and I'm still running with the fury and the fire that's within me. And I want to say I thank all of you who listen. The reason that I come on is to inspire some people and to bring some hope, because God's brought me a long way, and I dare not give him the praise for the things that he's already done. I come on to really give somebody some hope and to be an example of what happens when you allow God to work within you, and you don't let the labels stop you from becoming what God says you are. And I'm still in the process. I'm not complete yet, but I have to give God the praise, and I'm hoping that I can inspire some people to get started, because I'm still in the midst of some victories that's already won, but they haven't been manifested. But I'm here to tell you that if you hang in here, you'll find a change. You'll find that God is on your side, and there's nothing that's impossible to them that believe. I made a statement from the beginning. I said that every no gets you closer to your yes. And I want to say this, some of the things that you'll hear me talk about are the results of what I experienced when I was strung out on drugs. And for those of you that don't know me, my father was a Pentecostal bishop, one of the most influential people in this particular area, and I'm one of his sons. And to some degree, I was the black sheep, so to speak, because I was the one that got caught out in the streets. And like the prodigal son, I came to myself at one point in time, and I'll talk about that another time. But God brought me back, and I'm grateful, and I'm here to share some hope to some other people, because I was strung out for 23 years. And people had written me off and said, oh, he's never going to be anything or anybody. But let me tell you something. God is good, and God is great, and God is faithful. And I'm telling you, if you have people and loved ones in your family, please don't give up on them. Because sometimes those are the very ones that's going to be instrumental in bringing a great change in your family and your community. And they'll have influence on others who have been written off. Okay, I want to talk about the no's that comes in your life. And one of the things that I learned as a crack addict, I didn't have resources, but I used the 3Ds, and I think I've talked about that on a few other occasions, and the 3Ds. And if you have something to write with, a piece of paper, write this down. The 3Ds that'll get you closer to your goals is desire, drive, and determination. Because as a crack addict, I didn't have the resources to get high. But what I did have was I had a desire to get high, and I had a drive to get that feeling for when I got high. And I was determined. Once I got those two things working simultaneously and I got up, I was determined to make it happen. I was determined to get high. So one of the games that I used to do in order to get money, because my habit at one point in time was about $300 every day in order to get high, about $300. And most of the time I didn't have 30 cents. But what I would do is I would get up and I'd have that determination, and either if I didn't go to a store and steal something to get something of value to get started, I would use the panhandling game. I perfected that craft because I knew one thing about the panhandling game. All I needed was just the willingness to ask people. The Bible talks about asking, seeking, and knocking. And I'm telling you, that principle works across the board. Whether you're doing it for a favorable reason or you're doing it for something negative, that principle works. So what I would do as a panhandler, I would always have my story ready, and I never let people's faces or their attitude towards me stop me from asking. It didn't matter to me whether you were black, white, whether you were a mother or whether you were a father, whether you were young or old. I asked everybody for money. I had my story together and I asked everybody, and I was prepared for the no's because I knew that I was going to be told no a lot. People were going to look at me funny, give me all kinds of excuses why they couldn't help me or why they wouldn't help me. Some would be real derogatory and say things to me like, why don't you get a job? Or, I'm sure your mother must be very proud of you. Or, wow, a black man out in front of a store begging for people for money. Oh, you should be so ashamed of yourself. How could you? But that never affected me. I never let people's attitudes affect me when it came down to me asking for money, because I knew that with all of the no's, yeses was going to come. So an example of that, I might be out there. If my goal was to get $50, it would take somewhere between 15 to 20 minutes to get $50. But you ask everybody and you're going to get all those responses. So one out of 10 people would give me 50 cents to $1. Then 1 out of 20 people would give me $5. 1 out of 30 people would give me $10. And 1 out of 50 people will give me $20 or more. And that's just the numbers game. It's the same thing that the police use when they pull us over. They know 1 out of 10 people is going to be driving on a suspended license. 1 out of 20 people is going to have a warrant for their arrest. 2 out of 30 people are going to have something illegal in their car, and so on and so forth. They use the numbers game, and it works for them. That's the same way that I used when I used to do the panhandling game, and it still goes on to this day. If you see people out front of stores and stuff, they're not afraid of you, and they don't allow your comments and your attitudes to stop them from asking the next person. Very few people that's successful in that panhandling game allows their emotions to take over, because if that's the case, you get run off and they tell the manager or they call the police if you came off with some off the wall crazy response. So I learned to be pleasant and polite when they would tell me no and say all the derogatory things. I would thank them and I'd go on to the next person. I used that same method when it came down to me getting into school. All right. So when I was trying to get into a 4-year school or to get my bachelor's degree, I was in a situation where the federal grant that I had run out and I couldn't go back to school. I was in a 2-year institution and I had 1 semester, and I used what I was taught from my apostle to be successful in that 1 class. I saw myself being able to do well, in spite of the fact that the first 3 tests that I got, I failed miserably. I got a 23 on 1 test. I got a 35 on the next test and a 45 on the following test. And I was driving truck at that time, and I couldn't study for the tests and exams. So I was afraid that I was going to flunk out of school. So what I ended up doing is I asked God, help me, Lord, because you told me that my name is Dr. Cotton and I'm supposed to go to school and get these degrees. So I'm looking like I'm going to flunk out. I'm just starting and I don't have time to study. I'm driving. I got to pay bills like everyone else. And God reminded me that I had a voice recorder that I used to use when I directed choirs. I would record the voice parts, I used to record the voice parts before I go to rehearsal so that I knew what voice parts went to each section, whatever, for the songs. So I took the same voice recorder and I placed it on the teacher's or the instructor's desk while they were giving the lessons. And so when I would drive my truck at night, I would listen to the lessons like people listen to a sermon or you listen to your favorite music, and I would let it play in my ear all night long while I'm driving the truck. So consequently, the very next time that I took a test, I got an A. And from that point on out, my grades went all the way up. And in fact, when I ended up graduating, I graduated magna cum laude. And I used that method. I refused to lose, and I allowed God to open up my mind and help me get through school. But I said to say this, so when the Pell Grant ran out from the 2-year institution after one semester, I ended up going down to Dover behind some other circumstances, but God has everything under control, and he has a reason for why I went to Dover. When I went to Dover, I was getting into all of the free classes that the Department of Labor had. If they had free classes at the library, I went there. But I kept going to the Department of Labor every day. Every day I was showing up at the Department of Labor until one day, after about 3 months, one of the staff members asked me, said, "Why do you come here every day?" And when he said that just opened a door, and I just opened my mouth, and here's come the asking. I said, because I want to go to school, and I'm trying to find a way to get in school. I'm hoping that somehow or another I can get in some type of program to get me in school. So the person decided to take me under their wings and said, okay, we're going to see what we can do. He put me in for 6 different programs, and every program turned me down. But eventually, because I kept on going, one of the programs said yes. You remember what I told you? Every no gets you closer to your yes. Just like when I was on the streets, all of the no's that came at me got me closer to a yes. And a yes meant $1, a yes meant $5, a yes meant $20. But every no that I received got me closer to a yes. It's the same way when it was time for me to go to school. I kept seeking, I kept asking, and I kept knocking until eventually somebody said yes. I want to say this to you. Whatever that God has inspired you to do, whatever God has placed in your heart to do, don't let the no's stop you, because those no's are getting you closer to your yes. God has something in design for you. God has a purpose for your life. There's something that God is calling you to. There's a progression that God has for your life, and you can't let the no's stop you. Please don't allow people's faces, their attitudes, how they look at you to stop you. Don't become discouraged, but understand this: if you're persistent, if you keep on pressing, you got to get to your yes. So that's all I'm going to say to you today. I want you to know that with God, all things are possible, but in God, all things are complete. And as I always tell you, and remember this, that if you dream it, it's possible. But if you see it, it's supposed to happen. That's what God has given you. When he places it in your spirit, it's supposed to happen. He's going to show you the vision. He's going to show you going to your next level. And don't let the no's stop you. This is your boy, Brother West, aka Uncle West, telling you that I love you with all of the love that God has in my heart to give to you. And I want to encourage you, don't let the no's stop you, because your yes is on the way. God bless you.